nobody's going to treat this business like it's their own. I'm the closest thing to it. You could hear a pin drop. I can remember that moment when you said, I was like, you're hired. You and I started just knocking on doors.
We did. We were trying to create the demand because it didn't exist at the time. So we're kind of like crying together, kind of like, how the hell are we going to figure this out? I think I got like a $160,000 line. And then I immediately wrote the checks and maxed them all. And we bought a truck on a credit card.
College HUNKS gave me the opportunity to live my purpose. And he started at $8 as a wingman on a truck. He was stocking shelves overnight at like some supermarket. He became the CEO of our company.
Welcome back to HUNKS Talking Junk podcast, where we're talking all things leadership, branding, and culture. We have a very special treat today. We're joined by one of our very first employees at College HUNKS, the very first employee we hired when we started franchising. He's been with the brand for 18 years, as well as his husband, Ted, who they now run together, the largest franchise in our system, an 8-figure business. So we're going to be talking about leadership in the brand. We're going to be talking about franchising and everything in between on this crazy journey we've been on. So welcome, gentlemen.
This is great. This is exciting.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys for being here. Steven, you joined us when we were both, we can say it, basically kids. I mean, it was 18 years ago, before you answered the Craigslist ad that said looking for a director of training. I think it was something along those lines. You were going around working for a sales coach, Gary Cox, and kind of pitching his packages of sales DVDs at various conferences and so forth. So like, talk me through what you were doing before you joined College HUNKS, and then sort of what piqued your interest when you saw this random ad for a franchise company.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of crazy because by the time I'd worked for this professional speaker, Gary, and had an opportunity to do a lot of training and speaking. And what's crazy is, I joined you when I was 25, and at the same time, I had already had this myriad of experiences. I'd worked at a CPA, so I had this accounting experience and IT and speaking and training and
which is kind of a lot for a young kid.
It was a lot.
Somebody in his early 20s to have been exposed to that.
And it's funny actually. Somebody who eventually became like a mutual acquaintance of ours. But I went in an interview with this guy, Dean Akers, who was a Tampa entrepreneur, and his very kind rejection letter to me was, great meeting you. You'll be totally bored in this position, and you should be an entrepreneur.
Wow,
what a cool, validating email to get.
Yeah,
but also like, thanks, but I need a job. I don't have any money. I don't have any good ideas. And so I remember the day actually. Craigslist ad. I was sitting on the couch. Actually, I looked over at Ted, and I was like, I got so excited because I read this position and I went, this is everything I want to do. Like, it just encapsulated so much. And it was just this growing cool brand and the opportunity to kind of be able to be not only a part of something, but also do so many things I'm interested in. And I think in a lot of ways, like, that entrepreneurial spirit is really encapsulated in that, because that initial position, which was helping not only the first few locations of franchisees coming on board, but, all of the people that we started bringing on and working with. And at the time, there were no systems yet, right? So we're like we're onboarding these new locations, training them, and kind of building out the franchisee and the franchisor systems at the same time.
Building a plane that was barely off the ground while it was trying to lift off.
And 2008, housing crisis, like, we're just junk removal at the time. We're trying to figure out how to make this work. And I remember I would go visit locations, and at the time I'd be sitting on their couch in their living room because nobody even had offices yet. And we're trying to figure out, like, how do we make this work? And so it's really cool now to see where the brand's grown to.
It's incredible to see where it's gotten to. I mean, I remember what sealed it for me, the one-liner you used at the tail end of the interview, and this is for anybody who's thinking about applying for a job, is, because Omar and I were like, this is the most important position we're ever going to hire for, because, hey, we've got some people answering the phones. We've got guys up in DC that are doing the moving or doing just the junk removal, but we need somebody that's going to help us franchise this thing. And I think you said, hey, look, I've got a decent amount of experience, but there's nobody, and I recognize this is your baby, but nobody's going to treat this business like it's their own. I'm the closest thing to it. And it was like almost like you could hear a pin drop. Like I can remember that moment when you said it. I was like, you're hired. I don't think I said it right there. We might have strung you along a little bit with some early negotiations, but then you came in and it's like, it's like the quintessential startup story. We weren't quite in a garage, but we were in a small little box of an office. And I think at one point you were working out of the closet in the office because we ran out of space. But talk about like the the figuring it out, just the resourcefulness that was needed in those early days. And we just, like all of us, I think collectively, you, me, Omar, and anybody else was walking around the office. I mean, we were reading books, we were going to conferences, and we were just like, we've got to inject something into this that's going to help it go.
Yeah, I mean, so scrappy and really no resources, so we had to just figure everything out. The budget on everything we wanted to do was zero, and so we had to go, okay, but we still wanted to do it.
Yeah.
The 4-hour work week at the time was a big inspiration to us, because not that we were working 1 million hours a week. It wasn't about that, but it was about how do you figure this out? We were working with some people remotely and across the world at a time when, now that's so common. At the time, it was like progressive and trying to figure that out. But we could do everything we could to go, how do we take every dollar and stretch it, and every person that we knew, and be able to utilize that? And
it's like you, obviously you believed in it, and you continue to, because otherwise you wouldn't still be here. But we all just knew that there was something, a lightning bolt in the bottle, that if we just could, shake it enough or figure it out enough, it would make it work. And then we'll come back to the 2008 downturn, but in the meantime, Ted, while Steven was working with us and getting the franchise off the ground, you were in the, if I remember correctly, the sports memorabilia business.
Yeah, so
has actually made a bit of a resurgence more recently, I guess. With all the internet, and Golden's auctions and so forth.
Yep, and I knew Ken Golden back then, and
Wow.
and what he was doing. He was actually one of the legit guys out there in a business that was littered with people that weren't legit. But I had quit international sales job that I had, traveling the world, selling textile machinery, really to move across the country and be with Steven and see what we were going to do. And it's when he was working with Gary, and I loved sports, so I figured, let me try to get into sports. And I worked for a guy who was not a good guy, and some of my athletes and my clients didn't want to work with him anymore. And Steven always had my back, encouraged me to start my own business from the couch. So pretty much when he was looking to join College HUNKS, I had just started my own business, and we had just bought a house. It was kind of a crazy time, but we were scrappy and figuring it out. And I can just go back from being kind of, the supporter on the side, and being so impressed with you three and what you were doing and inspired by it. You and Omar were incredible at getting PR and resourceful, and Steven pretty much grew up in a library and was able to teach himself all these different things and build out the first hunkware. And just crazy what you guys did, and so inspiring. Kelsey asked me earlier, she's like, you have such a learning mindset and growth mindset. Were you always like this? I was like, no, not at all. And she's like, well, where do you think that came from? I said, honestly, I would give credit to Steven, Nick, and Omar, and what I saw them do, and the books you were reading, and the people you were meeting, and the relationships. And just to see it now 20 years later, and 18 years later, really, from when I saw it, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, agreed. And we'll circle back to when I remember also, like it was yesterday, where we were speaking at one of our franchise conferences, and you mentioned that you wanted to get involved as an owner, but we'll circle back to that. Yeah. But in those early days, Steven, we were doing franchise training. We had people flying in from other parts of the country, somehow buying a franchise, and this, from us, these, kids in their 20s that somehow seemed like we knew what we were doing, but we were still trying to figure it out. And then, like you said, 2008, 2009, the housing market completely
really
collapsed. So, like, if you were going to pick a time in our history to franchise a home service business, like most would not say, hey, do 08, 09, where you're dependent on people's discretionary income. Because sometimes I tell that story and like, oh, you guys must have had a lot of foreclosure work. And it's like, we chased it, but so did every landscaper, handyman, contractor, and everybody else that wasn't getting any business from the homeowners that were all getting foreclosed on. So, the margins were razor thin.
And all the construction work dried up too.
That's
so
right.
It was just,
everybody was chasing after it, to the point where you and I started just knocking on doors, going literally door to door. This was your innovation, door to door junk removal.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? We had our truck, knocked on the door.
We had this concept of the ice cream truck. We're like, well, if that works and it goes around and it sells ice cream throughout the day, how about, why don't we sell junk removal services?
That's right.
It was kind of crazy.
We pictured, this was before social media, but had social media existed back then, we could have made this sort of, maybe we should still do this, an ice cream truck video where the truck's driving by playing the tunes and people are chasing.
It'd be a great promo.
It's like junk removal instead of ice cream, and they're throwing their junk out the window.
We were trying to create the demand because it didn't exist at the time. So it's like, how can we try to generate this business? And you're right. I mean, I think the I'm really, I would just say, proud of us for the commitment of caring so much for the franchisees and their success, and feeling that so deeply. Like we felt this weight because we had these owners that came in that were like investing their life savings. You know, sometimes I'd go on a site visit, and like I said, you know, we're sitting in the living room and their family's on the other side, and we're kind of like crying together, kind of like, how the hell are we going to figure this out, right? But we did, and the franchise partners came along with that, but we really took that seriously, right? I mean, we felt this weight of the world on our shoulders because we didn't want to disappoint anybody. We wanted them to be able to, of course, be successful and make money and get back their investment and all these things. And us going door to door was literally
it was an
trying
example
to figure
of
that out to go.
Yeah.
And I remember I did that neighborhood sweep in Denver and Atlanta and these other cities where
The
we would go
franchisees
out
were like,
and
"You want me to
start
do
doing
what?
it."
Go knock on doors?"
I know. And I said, yes, let's go try to make it. And you know what? We would generate $1,000, which is, you know, not a lot of money in the grand scheme, but at the time it was like anything we could do to try to create the demand that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. And you I mean, and to your credit, from the very beginning, everything, when we were, Omar and I were more like, hey, let's throw stuff on the wall and see if it sticks. You were iterating and then creating systems out of those iterations. So you would bring the tools and the system. You were much more systems oriented. And obviously we all read the E-Myth, and the systems are what fail, not the people.
Yeah.
Talk about where that came from and where you've sort of continued to evolve into being so systems focused.
Yeah, I mean, we were inspired by the E-Myth, and I think trying to figure out, we're constantly going, how do we make this replicatable? Like, how do we make sure that this scales, that it continues to grow? And I don't know really where it came from for me personally. Maybe it's just just a myriad of experiences, but really going, we need to be able to make sure that if it works in one location, we need to be able to the hunks on the truck need to be able to do the same thing every single time. We needed to standardize training. We need to be able to provide as much support as we could to allow them to continue to be successful. And personally, my brain works like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good mix. I like doing it.
Yeah, well, it was a great compliment for our entrepreneurial brain. It's kind of before this concept of visionary integrator existed. You essentially were that integrator for the brand. Ted, what were you hearing about the business on a daily basis as Steve was coming home to talk about these two crazy guys and this small little office space and franchisees that were struggling? I
mean, it wasn't like a spouse situation where he was coming home and complaining about his boss and stuff. I think you guys were in it together, and he felt, he felt like an entrepreneur. He felt like an entrepreneur that was working for these two other people, but it was his job to build the business with them, and he took that responsibility seriously. I worried about him. I worried about his mental health, honestly. Like I wasn't as close to you and Omar at the time, but your guys' job was really difficult, and there was a ridiculous amount of stress on you. And now, as I've gone through it myself, I really realized the stress that was on you and Omar in particular. But Steven felt it too. And going to franchisees at the beginning when there wasn't a lot of success and wasn't a lot of money was difficult.
Yeah.
And it was like you guys could do everything right, but couldn't do anything right in the eyes of people. It was very thankless. So I worried about him that way. I remember, I think this is the second iteration of Hunk where he stayed up for 27 hours straight to get the launch done. And I thought he was going to end up in a padded room, honestly. Like, he was so insane. I was just like, this is crazy. He flew out to Vancouver. He was working with people all over the world. It was probably, a system that would cost $250,000 back then.
Right.
And you guys did it for like 20 grand.
Right.
So
which is more than we even had.
Yeah.
So,
That was a stretch.
You figured it out. And so look, as someone that loves him, I was worried about that, but he loved it. Like, when he got the job, and you guys, it put him through like 6 months, I think, of interviews and different stuff. And I remember I had a nice car. I said, "Yo, bring my car." Like, like they're gonna like that. Like, you're trying to strategize by it. And he walked in our garage and he was in tears. And I was like, I remember my heart just dropped. I was like, fuck, he didn't get the job. Like, oh no. And it was the opposite. He got what was his dream job at the time. And look, we're still here. We're all in. So, amazing moment. And I think that love for you guys, which was reciprocated and still is, I think kept him going.
And we Omar and I were publicity strategists, as I like to say, in those early days. We got on Shark Tank. We did the elephant march where we actually rode on an elephant to our very first, maybe second franchise conference wearing our mascot suits. I don't know if that would fly. Now 20 years later, probably some protests going on with the elephant, but that was different times back then, of course. The brand for a long time was bigger than the business. And it was almost like we were trying to catch up to the brand. Like we kept putting it out there. People saw the name, bright orange trucks. People saw us on Shark Tank. And I don't think the word sort of imposter syndrome existed back then. But, fake it till you make it did. That was more like, hey, that's something you just have to do in business. But we would walk into business conferences, and I do think we probably had that, whether you call it imposter syndrome or even just sort of insecurity of not really being what people thought the brand was back then.
There's this interesting thing too, where it was like, I think we felt both. We felt this insecurity with the brand and the name, and but also this like crazy confidence in it.
Yeah.
And we're getting advice from all these different people, and half of them are supporting, and the other half really successful people who we want to take their advice, and they're all going, you got to change the name, you got to change the brand, you got to do this differently. And it's like, yes, but there's something here. And then we believed in it, and we're pushing towards it. And then we all had those conversations internally too, because it puts this thing in your head.
Yeah.
But the reality is that this is a brand that not only has so much now experiential love from so many, literally hundreds of thousands of clients across I don't even know what the number is at this point,
millions,
across the country, millions. It's crazy. I mean, that's cool.
And so that kind of, we muscled through those economic downturns, kind of locked arms together through it. I don't know if it was 2009, 2010, we were at maybe our second or third franchise conference, and Ted, you pulled me aside and said, hey, obviously I'm doing the sports card business. I see how passionate Steven is about what you're doing. I see what you guys are doing with the brand. I think I'd want to be a part of it as a franchise owner, maybe in Long Island, which is where you're from.
Yeah.
When did that pop into your head, and when did you guys contemplate that notion?
Yeah, so the interesting part of all that is yes, there was interest, but at the beginning, Steven and I, in our relationship, we would always talk about business. So whether it was a business that I was trying to do and he was helping me with, or College HUNKS, like College HUNKS would be part of our dinner all the time, but it wasn't something I was interested in at the moment. And I came to that I think it was second reunion or third reunion for the barbecue, and there was some interest there, and that's when that happened. But part of it for me also was my niche was game used memorabilia, and it was with a lot of 500 home run guys. And A-Rod was one of my clients, and different guys like that, Manny Ramirez, and the steroid era happened, and they all wanted the same money, but they weren't worth the same money. And I had all the contacts for clients, and I had another guy who had the contacts for athletes, and he pretty much sent me this New Year's email that said, I was naive, and I introduced him to some people, and he pretty much told me, I'm cutting you out.
Happy New Year.
So yeah, Happy New Year. So I knew I had enough product to get us through like 10 months, and Steven, you guys were a startup. It wasn't like his salary was crazy, but like, it was, we were going to make it.
Yeah, I remember some of our compensation negotiations were just like, in retrospect, pretty laughable. I'd be like, like we were writing things on a whiteboard. It's like, well, what if we hit this? Could we make this work? Are you okay with that? We don't want you to quit. But we want you to feel whole.
We were working through it.
Yeah, I mean, there was no money, but thank God you guys did what you did and everything. So there was a couple different things, and I actually went to Steven. I'd worked for myself in all different ways. Even when I was in the textile machinery business, it was kind of eat what you kill type thing, and traveling all over. And I said, hey, I'm not. I need to get a job. We bought this house. Like, can you help me with my resume? I'm not in the corporate world. And he kind of said, you're kind of an asshole. You're kind of unemployable. But it wasn't a negative thing. It was really a super supportive thing going, you're an entrepreneur. That's who you are. It's what you've been. Like, let's start another business. And that's when the College HUNKS talk got really serious. And you guys had just added moving. Mm-hmm. And that made me way more interested, because you went from, at the time, a multi-million-dollar industry to a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I had delusional aspirations for whatever I was going to do. It was, what College HUNKS was talking about and what goals were not anything that, like, I was way I had aspirations way further than that at the time for franchisees, and obviously you guys had for the whole brand. But so that's when that conversation got serious, and that's when I think negotiations probably got a little bit uncomfortable for Steven, because you're his boss and I'm me, and you and I are going back and forth.
That's right.
And,
That's right. I forgot we kind
remember
of had parallel conversations where you and I were talking about performance-based incentives and so forth.
Yeah, and really I wanted a very large territory, and you
That's
guys
right.
weren't comfortable with that at the time. So that was really the only time it got, like, not bad in any way, but just you were uncomfortable with it. I was posturing. I had my head behind the curtain, so it was a weird conversation for you to have because I knew what was going on. And I think I told you something like I was going to buy Dunkin' Donuts if you didn't let me have all of Long Island, and that was a lie, just to let you know. But anyway, we made it work, and we've done incredible things together since.
Amazing.
So,
and so you talked about what our goals were back then. I mean, I think our stretch goal at our franchise conference was $30,000 a month per franchise by 2012.
Yeah,
we called it 30 by 12.
Yeah.
And of course, you guys blow through that in a day in your location now. I mean, you're doing $1 million months, which is absolutely insane. We've got, multiple franchisees in the 5, 10, or 5 plus million range, 3 to 5 million range.
Yeah.
So it's incredible to see how doing something and continue to execute on something can produce amazing results. So now let's talk about, you guys finally made the decision. We came to an agreement on what this territory on Long Island could look like. And I don't know which one of you guys wants to take this lead, but it's a crazy story how, from the franchise to adopting your son to moving to Long Island, all happening within like
Very fast.
very short time frame.
Yeah.
And you coming in saying, Nick, like, I need your blessing to do A, B, and C. And I was like, okay.
It was crazy. I mean, we became instant parents, which is a whole other crazy story. We had custody of our son within 5 days, which is just an insane thing in every fashion legally. It's a wild story on its own. But it was actually the night that Omar had his baby. Chase was born. And I've called you, and we had just found out about this opportunity and said, we need to go to Pennsylvania tomorrow. And I called you, and I said, I know that Omar just had his baby an hour ago, and we really need to step up together to make sure that that everything's okay and support him. But this situation just happened, and I have to go to Pennsylvania tomorrow, and I don't know when I'll be back. Obviously, I'll continue to do everything we're doing, and I work 24 hours a day anyway, but still, what do you think? And to your credit, it was no question, go.
Yeah.
And that was, really kind.
Yeah. And now Spencer's in what grade now? He's
junior. Yeah.
junior in
Almost
high
18.
school.
He'll
Yeah,
turn
it's crazy.
18 in 2 weeks.
Mind blown.
Yeah,
Mind
so-
blown.
Yeah, you guys were incredible support of just something that's kind of become a hallmark for you with all your employees over time, and I've been able to watch it. But for you, as you were all in your 20s and immature and trying to build this business and under tremendous amount of stress, there wasn't even a hesitation for you guys to be like, go get your kid, go figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, we'll figure it out. I mean, it's just a testament to who you are, and I don't want to gloss over that. It's not a normal thing, and it was incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Really.
Obviously, it was incredible what you guys were doing, stepping in. I know the story behind the adoption, and it was really from what I understand, a very dangerous situation for Spencer to be in, and you guys essentially rescued him and changed his life.
We got that custody in May 2011, and we opened the doors August 2011 to College HUNKS. So we were signing basically our agreement, and around the same time we were adopting a kid. And we lived in Florida because Steven was working with you. We were adopting a kid in Pennsylvania where to get physical custody, we had to basically pretend to live there and figure out how to get a spot there. And we were starting a business in New York.
Wow.
And not a business that was, it's an owner-operator business. I mean, certainly then, it was. So it's definitely crazy time.
Somehow we pulled that off, and just this constant triangle of, and us having such a demanding job at the time of all the things you're responsible for, and somehow able to pull it all off is really, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I don't know. I can't even fathom now working as hard as we did.
Exactly. And the back then it was, remote work really wasn't a thing either. So like having one of your key employees being remote wasn't something that was commonplace.
Wild.
And then I think when you guys opened your franchise in Long Island, you were maxing out credit cards to be able to get the trucks and supplies and the advertising.
Yes.
So at the time, you can't do this now. At the time, the tech wasn't as good. So you could, if you applied for all the credit cards on the same day and got approved them all, they didn't catch up yet to stop you from
Oh my
ordering.
gosh.
So I think I got between the two of us, we had good credit. So I think I got us like $160,000 line. And then I immediately wrote the checks and maxed them all. And we bought a truck on a credit card. And so we our credit score just
Yeah.
in the tubes. But crazy story, but it worked, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was ultimate resourcefulness because we didn't have a lot of money, and every dollar we spent, we were spending on to go with Spencer and do this whole situation of now living in 3 different states.
Yeah.
So the funding for us opening our location was credit card debt and dreams.
The credit card debt was crazy, but I don't forget this either. There was around 30,000. I think we had to come up with way more, and you guys floated us, and you didn't have the money to float us. I know that. You know what I mean? So we were going to pay you over time to get the territory. So I think we had to come up with like 30 grand, which was really nothing for the territory that we were getting at the time, and we got some very high interest type. I call them loan shark loans. They weren't really. They were from family, but they weren't.
Well, it's New York, so
yeah, they weren't favors necessarily, but at least they believed enough that they get their money back.
Yeah.
And I remember just telling them, if you see Steven and I are in the truck, come get your money. The plan's not working, because
meaning like driving the truck as opposed to being in the office leading the company.
Yeah, and in some ways that was kind of different than how College HUNKS was being run at the time too, right? A lot of owners were coming in and kind of hopping on the truck and doing their job, and we just had a different idea and a different vision for what this was going to be. And we collectively all had that, but we, as now a franchise partner, had that for ourselves as well.
Yeah, and I
Kind
think
of funny because at the time, I was going to say at the time, the big push we had was get the owners off the truck. Like, you can't be the one driving the truck and also run the company. You need to be going out and pushing this.
Yeah,
and
work
of course,
on the
hire
business,
people
not in the business. Yeah.
People to do the business. And it was almost a forcing function for us because there wasn't an option for us to be on the truck, right? That wasn't so we had no other choice but to go, we have to be able to make this work independently on its own. And at that point, us not always being there physically.
Yeah.
Kind of this remote management piece and really using some technology to help keep up with that, but it wasn't as good as it is now.
Right. Yeah.
So, the tools that were available to us, we made it work.
Yeah. And your stretch goal was within 10 years to do 10 million.
Yeah.
In a single year. And
so we actually broke a College HUNKS record for our first month, which is now laughable because franchisees kill it. I think it was like 13 grand or something. And now, if we do that in a day, we might be in trouble. But it's just kind of wild. But why don't you tell the three-prong goal that we had and the story for that?
Yeah, so we were at a reunion, and you actually were on stage and gave everybody a poker chip, and you asked everyone to write down, like, what number is it that you want to do? It was a great exercise for the audience. Everyone did it. And Ted and I weren't even together because at the time I was running reunions.
That's
so
right.
we're like...
You were still dual role as I'm not just, a team member. I'm also an owner,
right.
Yeah,
also a client. So at that point... And running reunion was crazy. So now we're speaking, but we're also like doing AV in the back and trying to figure it all out. And you would challenge this to the audience. And so Ted and I weren't together. He's in the front of the room. I'm in the back. But I took the poker chip and we both wrote down $10 million. And that was such a cool thing to come back to each other and show each other that we did the same thing.
To our team's credit and how hard we were pushing this vision, they all wrote 10 million also.
Wow.
There
Pretty
wasn't
incredible.
anybody that was with us didn't write it. And at the time, I think DC was doing $1 million and maybe we had just done $1 million. I don't remember what year the poker chip was.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, then it was just North New Jersey. There was one franchisee that had finally done it. Those numbers didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
I remember I became like public enemy number one for a moment because I stood up at reunion when they asked and I said, I'm going to do $1 million in next year. And it was like people scoffed.
Well, when you said the $10 million on the poker chip,
that was really
mind blown.
Gasp.
Yeah.
And then when we talked about it later with our team, we're like, okay, well, in order to do this, we're going to have like the only way we reach $10 million in a year is we need to be able to have $1 million a month, right? And then we break down the numbers deeper, and it's like, okay, well, we need to start having $50,000 days. And so though, we kind of reverse engineer and go, what is it that we need to do? And this probably made me cry. So I think it was June 26th of whatever, I don't know, a few years ago, whatever year it was. I don't even remember.
2021. 2021 coming out of COVID.
We're at our favorite restaurant, Robke's. Shout out to Robke's, and where we live. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we look down at our phone, and we hit the $50,000 day and the $1 million month in the same day.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden we just looked down, and it was just like tears pouring down because we went, look, like this is it. And then that year we wound up doing the $10 million year. And so to have that foresight, to have this thing in literally 10 years in the making, and then have it, the first two benchmarks have it on the same day. And just because we hit those two didn't mean we were going to hit the year. Right. I mean, that's still
the
that's
trifecta.
6 months to go. And along, at that point we were probably still 5 million or however many million away from hitting that end target. And so to do that and all three in the same month or same year was just really cool. And continues to be motivating for going into the future.
What's a testament, that when we used to think about the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal was supposed to be kind of almost scary and seem somewhat out of reach and to some people, outsiders, laughable. But the fact that you hit that, and when you wrote it down and said it 10 years prior, people laughed or thought you were being silly or ridiculous.
Really thought I was a jerk.
Or being a jerk even, right? Yeah. It's funny enough, I found that poker chip, because the theme of that was conference was all in. So the idea is like almost like burn the boats. You push your chips all in. And I found one of those poker chips recently, but the number that we had written on it had faded off, which at the time was 100 million that we wrote as a brand was our vision, which we've now nearly tripled that as our annual revenue. So I've got $1 billion on there on the chip now.
I'm pretty sure we hit 10 and 100 in the same year.
I think
I remember
right.
giving you a hug and just being like, "Oh my god!"
We as a system hit 100 million. You guys hit 10 million as a franchisee. If we continue to that trajectory, if we're going to be $1 billion brand, you guys got to be $100 million
We're on
franchise.
Our
way. So we got to keep things going. Now, obviously, none of that stuff happens with just the two of you. You guys were very intentional about investing in marketing, trucks, office, warehouse, but most importantly, the thing that's always impressed me about you guys is investing in leaders and really leaning into this core value of building leaders within our brand. In those early days of your business, you would bring, seemed like 10, 15 guys from your location down to our franchise conference, sit them all in the front row, round table after every session, trade notes, swap notes. Many of those guys year to year weren't always there. It was like new guys, but then there were some that were there and started to notice people, sticking around, some of the leaders that we'll talk about, Eric and Mike and others in a moment. But how did that sort of intentionality play into the vision? And how did you're setting up shop in Long Island, you're moving there, with your new, son, back in a market where, you haven't been there in a long time. And now you're trying to introduce a brand that nobody's heard of and recruit employees that are not the easiest in this type of industry. And I would imagine in New York can be challenging in and of itself.
I'll say a lot of it, I think, initially was putting our money where our mouth was. So, here I was every month running franchise training, and we're talking about, this is the marketing playbook. These are the things you need to do. And these are, this is how you need to, this is where you need to invest. Here's how you need to treat people. And so we just continuously said, well, if this is what we're saying works, even though nobody else may be doing it or proving it out, but really believe in the system that we put together. And so we just really, we really focused in on that. We spent the marketing dollars, invested in it, and invested in the people. And it was a cool, it was kind of this like self-fulfilling thing too, because it felt not only good for us and we saw the success with it, but we also saw it with how it was helping the rest of the system and the people there too. And so it was kind of like this responsibility also to show, right?
Yeah, I kind of laugh because we have a little bit of two different angles on this at the time, right? Because he was so all in on all of that. He was creating it and he was in the brand, and I was immature Ted and just wanted to blow through doors and not listen to anybody, right? So it was like a really good partnership in that sense, because I had an anchor that didn't let me just destroy
He had his
everything.
franchisor hat on half the time.
And I was the
of the time, and you were this entrepreneurial franchisee that, every franchisor is like trying to, hey, there's a system.
So he's laughing because my answer is still different than his.
It's definitely different than mine, but 2011, Ted shouldn't be a franchisee of College HUNKS in 2020.
Unless you got Steven Nichols as your right-hand man.
And I don't mean that in a bad, like, we have plenty of entrepreneurial trailblazer type type people that come in and they're great, but we have a really proven, amazing system, and people should come in and follow that, and they're going to be really successful now. At the time, we were kind of building it together, right? And I was being asked to prove some stuff, but I also wanted to do some stuff that no one wanted me to do, you know, and, you know, going on the radio and doing these different things.
That's
where,
right. There was advertising
you know,
that you guys did that wasn't in our marketing playbook, right?
Yeah, and I, you know, not just, no one ever gave me a hard time here with it. I was supported. I don't mean it like that, but even in the industry there, I had guys that now asked me to be in their industry groups that were laughing at me. No, we don't do that. That's not where we spend our money, right? And now we have an exclusive on the 2 top radio stations where if you're a moving junk room, you're not even allowed to work with them.
Wow.
You know, that's so it's and it definitely, you know, blew our brand up in the area, you know, with many other things that we did. But most importantly, to get back to what you said, what really attracted me to the brand outside of what I was able to see were the core values, were your guys, the 3 of your values, because that's really where the core values came from, was you know, your and Omar's vision and your 3 values together as you were figuring that out, and particularly building leaders for me. And for the first time in my life, College HUNKS gave me the opportunity to live my purpose. It was incredible, and something I'm incredibly grateful for still to this day, and what keeps me going to this day and keeps me waking up and wanting to work and do whatever when I don't really have to as much anymore. And you know, being able to build leaders and to live my purpose in a way that with the highest integrity and the way I wanted to do it within all my other jobs and sales and marketing and being in sports and all that, it never felt that way. It always just felt kind of shisty no matter what. It just didn't feel, it was never felt good.
Yeah.
And
it was more about just trying to get the dollar or the bottom line in those examples.
Yeah, make the sale. And with this, it wasn't about that. Of course, we needed sales and we wanted to make money and do all that, but it was people from day one. It was the people in our building first, and then our clients, and then the people in the community, and it was like that from day one. We were all giving back before any of us took any money. Yeah, like I didn't take a salary for a while, but we were already in a giving back type program, right? It was part of the fabric of College HUNKS. It was part of what we all believed, and it was easy for me to sign up for that. And you know, Eric, you mentioned, joined us 6 months into the business. I mean, we're gonna all kind of celebrate 15 years, you know, this year. And he started at $8 as a wingman on a truck. He was stocking shelves overnight at like some supermarket. And actually, I got 2 applications. One from his dad that he signed up that I found out years later, and one from Eric. And his dad's was way better, I found out after. But anyway, you know, he just believed, and we kept pushing the vision, and we were saying things that were crazy. I mean, there was no money to be made.
We were interviewing on paint cans at the time. So
well, that happened, and then we opened a month earlier than we wanted to because there was a hurricane that happened, and I ran around, and this is not an endorsement or anything that anyone should ever do again. We are a safe company now, but I ran around buying chainsaws because the jobs we were getting were like cutting up trees on the ground and getting it, and that was just kind of how we all were at the time.
It was founder
like,
mode.
It was like, let's get out there and do it. And I remember we have it framed. It was like our first job was like over $2,000, which was kind of crazy, but it was like tree removal. The
College HUNKS hauling stumps.
There you go.
What did you see in Eric? Like, how did he stand out, or did he stand out in those early days? Because you said, you know, he was stocking shelves as a young guy. He's running the entire, you know, 8-figure organization in Long Island for you guys. Yeah. I've been so impressed with his continued investment in himself, as well as your guys' investment in his development to keep pace with the business. Because, you know, you always often hear, you know, whoever got you there isn't going to get you, here isn't going to get you there. Yeah. What were the I don't know, tangible and intangible characteristics that you saw in those early days that, or did you see that, hey, this guy could be the guy? Like, did you recognize that capacity or potential yet, or did it take time for that to manifest and evolve?
Yeah, I mean, you know, April or May 2012, whenever he joined us, there was a couple other guys in his class. I actually think I interviewed them from Florida. We had these screens and stuff up, and I would fly back a lot. And I knew it was a good class. I liked all of them, I just think that, you know, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I'm good at recognizing talent and kind of pulling potential out of people. And I was maniacal about it back then because it's all we had. I had to pay these guys $8 an hour and convince them that we were going to be one of the biggest companies on Long Island, and this is what we're going to do, and, you know, be one of the 4 pillars with me. And you know, I wouldn't say that I recognized it that quick with Eric, right? Like you're just hiring people and I hope I can make him into a good salesman, a good captain. And that's what it was over time. And then I think it was 2013 reunion. We took a few people here with us, and Eric was the guy we left back to run the operation. And he tells a story now and gives me a hard time about it, how devastated he was
that he couldn't come to the conference.
That he wasn't picked and I picked somebody else over him. And he just handled things so well. He, you know, and back then you had to be scrappy, and he did it. He was always just willing to do anything, but he was really quiet. He wouldn't speak up about anything. So he was super quiet and reserved. But he was like a get it done guy. He would never say no, he'd get it done. And I remember there was one day we were at reunion and like everything went wrong, and, you know, at the operation, and he was running the operation, ended up on a move and completed it, and ended up doing all the estimates that day. And I just, it made me see him, right?
Yeah.
So I started seeing him way more and giving him more of my time.
It's like if the starters were, you know, I don't know, traveling now, you got somebody from the bench that's in the game. You're like, oh, that guy can play.
Yeah, exactly. And it just kind of, it made it really clear. And I was like, oh, I'm going to spend more time with him. And then as he became like part of our management team, again, it was different. It was small back then. It wasn't like what we see now. We would have these, you know, weekly war meetings, and I could tell we were aligned. And I would keep telling him after meetings, I'm like, Eric, speak up. Because the other managers, we weren't really as aligned. But like, Eric and I saw the world the same way.
Yeah.
Like whether I was right or wrong didn't even really matter to me. I needed someone to be aligned with me. Like there's other ways to do it. I'm not there's plenty of different ways to do it and do it right. But we just saw the world the same way, the way you wanted to treat people, which was important to me. And I would keep pushing him to speak up. And there were a couple of guys ahead of him, and he didn't want to step on toes. He didn't want to do all that. You know, when he finally got his shot in the end of 2017 to take over the operation, Steven and I were very honest with him and just said, look, we're growing really fast and you're going to take over the operation now, but we're going to probably hire somebody that's going to be in between you and us. And years later, he told us that's when he went home, whether it's YouTube, podcasts, books. We always brought him to every conference we went to and really believed in that, but he did so much work on his own at home, and he basically said that I was never letting anyone come in between us. And you know, 2021, when we hit that year, he became the CEO of our company. So you know, he earned it for many years, but that was when we finally committed to him in the same way. And
that's a phenomenal example.
And we balance each other so well. You know, it's just a continued working relationship, which is really nice. So it's we're aligned, but it doesn't mean that you're not respectfully disagreeing or frustrated or have these different things. And
healthy debate, healthy conflict,
and it's good, right?
And then commit to the decisions.
And
there's not always consensus, but there's commitment.
Right.
The only meeting on my calendar now at this point, and really Steven's, is that is pretty much religious to us, is a weekly same page meeting with Eric.
Nice.
But other than that, he executes on everything.
Wow.
You know,
and we work fast. Like all of a sudden we come together, we decide on something. He's working on it as he's walking out of the room.
Yeah.
And it's just that
speed to execution is
and
powerful.
alignment is like really cool.
Yeah. It's powerful, especially when we're trying to build a fast growing business. Yeah. And I mean, we'll have to do multiple episodes with you guys and Eric at some point as well, because there's so many other examples. I mean, one of our regional franchise coaches, Mike Brienza, who's now on the franchisor side, started in your office as well. Very similar type of story. Ultimately joined us on the franchisor side. So you guys have this, track record of like you said, pouring into this leadership development that you're passionate about, and that is one of our values as a brand, and that ultimately it's paid off, because we know, the teams with the best players that believe in the values and can execute are the teams that win. So that's
absolutely. I mean, for Steven and I to walk around even at this conference and see, of course, our guys that are here, which Eric's been with us 15 years almost now, and Jameson and Josh are with us, been with us 8 years. But to see Billy Marcoux, Mike Brienza, Will Asher now, these are all guys that started in our location doing cool stuff for the brand and corporate. And this is the brand that, before we were in franchisees, changed our life, right?
Yeah.
I can't even explain with words how much gratitude I have for this brand and what it's done for us and our family and what we believe in. So to see us being able to make an impact beyond even our location and have those guys out there doing it, it's just we're incredibly proud of it. It's pretty amazing.
Stephen, one of the things we talked about was, back in 2009, we went to the Inc. 5000 conference. I think our company qualified for 3-year growth trajectory. We heard Jim Collins speak. Our theme this year at our conference is the flywheel, which is a Jim Collins construct that is really timeless and universal. Talk about sort of like those early days, the Jim Collins construct, how that's influenced you or how you think of it on this go forward basis.
Sure. It's interesting. I just recently came across, I have to send them to you, my notes from that conference of seeing him speak.
By the way, we'll have to show
cool.
it on the podcast. We have the photo of the three of us, you, me, and Omar,
that's great.
with the Inc. magazine cover page.
Omar says I look like I'm waiting for the bus.
Yeah, you're looking at your watch. I have this long, ridiculous curly hair. Absolutely ridiculous.
You guys are kids.
Yeah,
you
really were.
So,
yeah, I think just that commitment to learning. I mean, actually, Ted, we've all brought up the core values a few times. Actually, that very first week when I started and we had a training class up at DC and went up there on that Saturday, you and I were in DC. Omar was in Tampa. We had him on the phone and we were doing our first, at the time, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits 1-page plan.
That's right.
And so we're doing our strategic planning. A whole part of that process is developing the core values and what is the mission? What do you stand for? And we sat there for 8 hours or whatever, collectively going through this, and pretty cool actually that they've tweaked over time. But the core values that were created that day became the 4 core values of the brand. I mean, what a cool thing. And we were such students, and you were so good at this. We would go, okay, now we have to do the core values. And so what does that mean? And we page 56. So we go there and we read it. And then all of a sudden we go, wait, what is that again? And we go back to the page and we reread it again.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of following the instructions.
Right.
And it said, this is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think that then going to the EAT conference, which was a great conference, and going to, all of a sudden had the opportunity to be, I don't remember, for whatever reason we were in Vegas, but then said, let's go tour Zappos headquarters and let's find what are these different things that we can do to learn and just apply this, because we didn't, I think I said this a long time ago, but what I always appreciated for you and Omar specifically, and I hope I did the same thing, is that when it came to this, we were egoless. Like it was just, we were confident with what we were trying to do and working hard at it, but at the same time going, we need to pull from every resource and information, and really what we could afford at the time was books.
That's right. Yeah, there was and conferences in some cases, or mentors, free mentors that we'd reach out to through the International Franchise Association and otherwise, which is actually kind of a cool segue as we wind up down here. You've started, both of you guys, speaking at conferences, workshops for young entrepreneurs, embarked on some other entrepreneurial ventures and invested in businesses as well. So talk about sort of that evolution, maturation process. Now that you've had this level of financial success, obviously we're not done. We're going to keep building and growing together. But now you get to impart not just your knowledge with your team, but the entrepreneurial community in New York and beyond.
Well, there's a couple of things there. On one hand, yes, because what we've been able to do in this brand has really fulfilled so many things in our entire life. I mean, it's met so many personal goals. It's allowed us to get involved in these different things that we care about or are passionate about, or just maybe an opportunity. And so that is just super, it's really cool. There's this thing that I read every now and then that says every problem you're dealing with, because we still all get stressed out and crazy, right? And you're dealing with a problem. Yeah. It's like every problem you're dealing with now was once a dream on the board. Like we did everything we could. We worked for 20 years or whatever to have this problem.
Yeah.
What a cool thing. And then I think full circle for us has been now actually refocusing, because I think a huge part of our success and being able to grow to a certain size and do this quickly has been we were just relentlessly focused on our location and what we were doing and making sure that everything that we were doing was at the best possible scenario. And then you start to get distracted.
Yeah.
And so
I'm guilty as well.
The focus is now we're refocusing and going, this brand is so important, and it's what we're doing every day, and we need to make sure that we're like
Yeah.
laser focused.
Yeah, I have to give you
Because the
credit.
10X is
I have to give you
huge.
credit for that. At the very beginning, we weren't making any money as a franchisee. I was trying to be a FedEx hub. I was putting everything. I was like, people will come in, we'll sell them a move, they'll drop off their package. He was like, "What are you doing? Do you believe in this?" I was like, "Yeah, I believe in it." He's like, "Well, then just focus."
Somebody came in and gave me a
He's like,
FedEx. I had to
"Focus."
drive to the FedEx place.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you
You started
doing?"
advertising
Yeah.
for it, wasn't even set up
Yeah,
yet.
so I was chasing squirrels all over the place, and luckily he reined me in. But yes, Steven's getting paid good money to go do keynotes and talk about different things, and that's off the backs of College HUNKS and his success and your guys' collective success, and really all of our collective success, all the franchisees at this point. The entrepreneur camp that we did for kids this week was great. I'm the president of our EO chapter right now. Like, there's a lot of cool things that have come, but it all started here. And to your point, yeah, we went and invested in other things. We thought over the last 5 years we need to diversify. Some really cool stuff, some fun stuff. It's
Broadway play, cake business.
Yeah, it's all good. Most of it, you lose your money, and really come full circle and go like, no, the next 25 years and 30 years is the next level of this thing that we love and that we've been a part of for a long time. And, let's go to that 100 million. And when we hit 100 million, same way when you hit 1 billion, we're going to all want more.
Yeah.
So, how do we go and do this together? And that's re-energized us. You get to a point, I think, in your business sometimes at a certain size, especially when you're not part of the day-to-day anymore and you kind of feel like you're in the way. Like, I didn't know what my job was for a few years. I didn't even really know what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I was like stepping on toes and then like also like not working for a little bit and just being able to be comfortable and going
we all worked very hard at the beginning, so taking the foot off the gas a little bit for a breather allows you to get some mental headspace and pursue some creative exploits outside of the core. But I'm having a very similar circling back to
and quite
core.
frankly, I've leaned on you and Omar for some of this because you've done it a little bit before us, right? So you've gone through some of these things, and the advice you've given has been great. And some advice Omar gave us at a mastermind a while back, as we're all fortunate enough to be a mastermind together. He saved us some money for sure, just by saying, I did that too, and it wasn't good. And, so
Be careful with that one.
Yeah. So I think it's really feels good to come full circle and know and be focused in again and re-energized. Like, I want to do this, and it doesn't have anything to do with the day-to-day. That's not going to be us, but I've got something to do now.
Yeah.
I've got a North Star. So
amazing.
I think that's fun.
Last question. People ask me and Omar all the time, you guys were best friends in high school. Now you've built a successful business together. How did the business not fall apart? How did the friendship not fall apart? So similar question to you guys. How have you guys maintained your relationship while also building an incredible business that started extremely stressful, as we touched on earlier, and I think it's a great shining example for others that are starting business, whether it's with a spouse, a friend, a sibling, or otherwise.
Yeah, who do you want to go first?
I'll just say it's interesting because we get that a lot, and some people are like, "What do you mean you're married? You work together?" They could never imagine it, and we just go, "We can't imagine it any other way." Like we complement each other well. We care about each other, obviously personally, but we respect each other in the business. It works really well, and I also think that honestly, having a good business partner also is an advantage.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and sometimes I look and I have a lot of respect for our friends who are in single business owners. We actually try to be more supportive for them. Sometimes you're like, they don't have anyone else to talk to, so make sure you pick up their call. Right.
Yeah. No one to celebrate with or to pick them up when they're down.
Right.
Well, look, groups like EO and YPO exist for the founder or the executive that's on an island by their own. Oh, you can't talk to your spouse. I mean, they sell it based on that, right? You can't talk to anyone about this stuff. You had Omar, he had you.
Right.
You all three had each other, but not on the same level, right?
Yeah.
And Steven and I have had each other. It's not all perfect.
Right.
It's not all a straight line, right? Like we had to, and I think Bill Wagner, who came to a bunch of our conferences for a while, he did our personality profile, told us we'd be divorced in like a year. He's
very
like,
publicly on stage.
Yeah,
He's like, you'll never make it.
Yeah, he's like, your two profiles, you can't live
So
together.
every time we see him, we're like, look, Bill.
Yeah, 20 years, Bill. But anyway, I think we were, first of all, what Steven said, that mutual respect, but we're good at different things.
Yeah.
And we let each other own the different things. I think when we bought our building and we both started trying to get involved in the reconstruction of the building, we started to bump heads, and very quickly he was doing most of the work anyway, and I just wanted a new bathroom. So I was just like, you know what, you handle this, because what we don't work on the same things. We talk about everything, but there's some things that are going to be his call, and I'll never try to make it mine, and vice versa. Doesn't mean we don't talk about it. I want his opinion on all the stuff I'm doing. He wants mine, but that really helped us. We weren't good at the same things. We didn't want to do the same things.
And for us, if there's a conflict, I wouldn't really say conflict, but if we're like each offering a different opinion, it really boils down to, are you going to do the work? Like, do you want to do it? Who's going to actually do this and take responsibility for it and move it forward? So if the answer is, I have a lot of opinions, but no, I'm not going to touch this at all, I don't really have much of an opinion. Like, I might keep chirping.
So he wins most of the time.
That's right. I think, I've heard it said that, one way you can do it is you write down, how strongly you feel about it from a 1 to 5, and then try to, use that as the determining factor. I always say with Omar and I, our foundation of trust is there. We complement each other's skill sets, and we don't hold resentments longer than 24 hours. Like, if we fight or argue with each other, we get back to the vision and the values, which are still in alignment. And I think that those elements hold true with not just business partners or even life partners. My wife and I kind of similar dynamic, but also just business relationships, franchisor, franchisee, is a similar dynamic.
It's huge. You're right. We came from different parts of the world, different situations, but our core values, that we were very aligned. We were aligned how we want to parent. We were aligned how we wanted to treat people. Like, we've never fought once about our people or about how to treat them or how we want to do it. When we expanded to a team in the Philippines, the biggest thing was, no, we're gonna live our core values with them too. They're not gonna be this separate, second class team. Like, if we can't change their lives and make an impact, we won't do it. The one thing I'll say that was big for us, especially at the beginning when we were hustling like crazy, was we made a deal with each other. If you had to be home, because we always talked about business, and sometimes you'd go all night and the other person just needed to be home. Shoot a text. We just made a just write, I gotta be home tonight. And what that meant was, like, take off that freaking green shirt. I don't want to see it. And and let's just be home. Let's just have dinner tonight, and just give a heads up, because there, that was the only time where it would just be like, you get home to dinner and you just had a rough day, and maybe he'd be on fire and want to talk about it, whether it was on the brand side or our side, and I just couldn't handle it, or vice versa.
That's actually a great code word for us, because you could actually be mid-sentence saying something,
like home.
And it would be really rude to just be like, freak out, and instead it's just like, I got to be home, and we instantly get it, and it's just like, okay.
Well, it's a good way to break
I didn't think I was saying anything bad. It doesn't matter what you think. It's like, it's
a good way to break that critter state that sometimes we fall into as well.
Because if not, you fly off the handle, and it's not fair. Why are you yelling at, or you're upset or whatever? It was just kind of, and then we had to, he's more of a morning person, I'm a night person, so it'd be like 11 o'clock at night, and be like, hey, I'm gonna buy a truck, and he's like, I'm trying to go to sleep. Like, you're stressing me out. So, like, you just figure out how to do it that way, but it comes down to what you talked about: that trust, that alignment, that respect, and not harboring disagreements.
Well, good, guys. This was awesome. The time flew by. Like I said, we'll have to have you guys back through. There's a lot more we could have dove into, but incredible journey, incredible success story. I got to spend time with you guys at your beautiful estate, waterfront, the sunset views. I got sunset view envy of your awesome pad that you've been able to acquire in Long Island. And, you guys were gracious enough to take us into the city on the Sprinter van, give us the real, royal treatment. So it's really amazing to think where we started, just trying to figure it out to, where you guys are currently. And, I think, Steven, you coined this phrase, we're just getting started. And I think that's what's so
we still
exciting.
Feel that way.
And that beginner's mind, I think, is really what just getting started elicits. And having that beginner's mind, not losing the founder mode edge, continuing to learn and grow and surround ourselves with people that are further ahead of what we're trying to build without losing sight of the values and the vision. That's where the magic happens. Before I forget, I got to read the text that Steven sent us in preparation for this conference, because it was pretty cool, if I can find it.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll just thank you as well, and the gratitude for you and Omar and the brand, and you've changed a lot of lives, and we got to live it out from the beginning of the story with you, and that's special, and truly appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. So Steven sent me this text at the beginning of our franchise conference. He said, "Good morning. This is our 18th franchise conference. How insane is that? Appreciate and proud of you both for continuing to bear the HUNKS Olympic torch. How many people do you know that have survived anything for this long? Most marriages don't last this long, let alone business partnerships, let alone business concepts, let alone a business with a unique name like College HUNKS. None of this makes sense on paper, and that's why it works. It's just bold enough, just strong enough. Whew, can I get me choked up? Just fun enough. Congratulations. Keep taking it in. You deserve to. Whew.
Yeah.
That was powerful. You
every word of that.
Yeah, you moved my world with the speech. And I'm excited to keep building with you guys. 100 million and beyond for your location is within reach, and $1 billion brand and the impact that it can make along the way. So thank you guys.
Just getting started.
You.
Yes, sir. That was another episode of HUNKS Talking Junk. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Leadership, branding, and culture. And we're going to continue to bring you that value that you can bring into your life as well.